Welcome to Live Life with Jay. I'm Jay Narvaez, the Live Life financial coach and educator, and I'm just here to bring you financial tips and that can help you in your financial journey along the way. Well, guess what? Today we have a special guest, and I love having special guests because I feel like they can bring you information that you may benefit from or things that you may want to learn along the way. So I think it's amazing. And sometimes it's things that I don't even know yet, right? So I get to bring these wonderful guests, and that's the beauty of YouTube, to be able to share amazing people with you. Today, we have Viv from Overcoming Gen Poverty, and she's just going to give us some background of what it's like to overcome generational poverty. So please stay with us so you can see what she has to say. Hi guys, welcome to Live Life with Jay. I'm Jay Narvaez, and I am so excited. We have a special guest. We have Viv from Overcoming Generational Poverty. Viv, can you explain what you do?
Yes. So first, I just want to say thank you for having me on your YouTube channel. I'm really excited. So I started a community around overcoming generational poverty. Basically, I was like drowning in debt. And, I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I had just started working like a first professional job. And I realized like in the personal finance community that nobody was really talking about, these cycles, like breaking these cycles and being the first one to do so. And so that's why I started my page Overcoming Poverty, Overcoming Generational Poverty, just to share my experience and also offer support and kind of build a community with people that are going through the same thing. So people that are breaking generational curses, people that are breaking the cycle of generational poverty, and people that are just trying to build wealth for the first time, because it could be a really lonely and difficult journey. And so that's kind of what I do right now. I want to grow it to where eventually, I have a big community where I can maybe connect people and offer more resources to those people and just like I said, offer support because it could be, as I know, it could be a very hard journey, especially if you don't have anybody to kind of guide you through it, or things that come up along the way in your journey, and then you kind of don't know how to handle them. So,
and you're first gen in the States, right?
Yes, my parents are Mexican immigrants, and I was the first one in our whole family to graduate from the educational system here in the US.
Yeah, so congratulations to that, because that's a big milestone, right?
Good
job. What stuck out for me was a lot of people in the personal finance community, especially on Instagram, is that they focus on financial literacy, which is great, but they never talk about the poverty part. And I was just like, yes, we need to talk about it. This is so important because I grew up in a very low income neighborhood in North Philly. And obviously it's poverty. We had drug corners, shootouts. But I can't say that I experienced like poverty in my household. Like we were low income. Yeah. And so I can speak from that extent, but I can't speak from the poverty extent, because like I know I never went without food. And I had clothes, and I did have hand-me-downs from like my aunts. But I know I didn't have a lot of clothes, but I never like in my mind thought that we were like poverty, I guess, if that makes sense. And it was just the four of us. It was my parents and me and my brother. So I thought that this was like really important to talk about.
Yeah. And poverty could look different for everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean like you're in a shelter and you don't have food. It could be that maybe your parents had to sacrifice them eating so they could give you food, and that's why you never were lacking food.
Yes.
That's
good. Thank you for pointing that out. That's a great way to look at it.
I think like everyone has their own experience, and we shouldn't like kind of this I'm trying to find the right word, but you shouldn't just ignore and like not recognize your experience with poverty, because like I said, it could look like different for every person. And so what you went through maybe like somebody else has gone through or is going through now. And like you haven't gone through it, and like now like being great with money and like building this community in the personal finance space, like somebody could maybe like look up to you and like ask you for advice and like how you navigated that. So yeah, I think everybody has something to offer, especially if they've gone through that journey and are now in a much better place.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. So I wanted to ask you, what are some key ways that someone who is going through, I guess, poverty or is in poverty and or has a really low income, what would be some key ways that would help them go to like the next step?
Mm-hmm. So first, I think like everyone should assess their situation. Some people have certain circumstances that don't allow them to progress or like to get out of that situation. So for example, if somebody has like a learning disability and is an adult and maybe doesn't speak English well and they're in this country, similar to like a lot of family members that I know, it's gonna be really, really hard for them to go back to school. And like people say, oh, go back to school, study, and then you can get a better job. That might not be an option for them. They might have to, they might be the sole breadwinner in the family, and because of that reason, they can't just, not work. So I think the first thing to do is just like look at your situation and see like what capacity you have to do to better yourself in like different ways, and see if like those ways can help you bring income into your life. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the capacity to do those things, then I would look for help. So I would reach out for help with other family members and ask them like, I'm trying to get out of this cycle. I've assessed my situation and I can't go back to school. I can't do, I can't work extra hours because I have to take care of my children or whatever it is. Right. And so now I'm reaching out to you for help. Maybe we can come up with some sort of plan so that like maybe you guys can help me, whether it be like taking care of my children or like, mm-hmm. Helping me study for, a school or a trade or something like that, or connecting me with somebody else that may have a job opportunity for me. I think that would be like a good way to start. Assessing your situation, asking for help. If it's not family members, you can ask friends, or you can ask social workers that you can find in hospitals or in schools, and they can connect you with the right people. So that would be like the first thing that I think anyone who is trying to overcome that cycle should do. And then once you've gotten help or you've assessed your situation and kind of what your game plan is, then the next step would just be to follow through and take advantage of those resources. Take advantage of if you do have the capability to go back to school, or apply for another job or work in another job, then seek opportunities for growth in those resources. So try to get better at your job so that you can get a promotion. Seek opportunities so that your income can increase from there. And then also, once you've done that, if you do have debt, then definitely, like if you have high interest debt, make a plan to pay off your debt. So that way, like, debt isn't holding you back, because I know that's a really big thing for a lot of people that are in that cycle of poverty. A lot of the times they fall into debt and then they just can't get out of it. So definitely, like, take advantage of your resources and then try to pay down your debt as much as possible. Make that a priority. And then the third step would just be to now save. Make a little nest egg so that you can have something to rely on in case anything happens. So an emergency fund. And I would start off with something small, like $200, $500. Once you have that saved up, then you can move up to 1,000, and then so on and so on. But those are like the first 3 steps that I think people should take whenever they're trying to overcome generational poverty. But again, like I said, it can be different for everybody because we don't know what their circumstances are. So it's really hard to tell people to do these things if they're in a situation that doesn't allow them to do it.
Right.
And I think like that's what I'm really careful with on my page, because I don't want to tell people like, oh, just follow these 3 steps and like, you know, you could overcome the cycle of poverty. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, like a lot of people are stuck in that because they have no other option. You know, maybe they have a family member that's sick, they have to take care of them. Maybe they're the only person in their family that could work because of legal status. And so they have to take care of their whole family, and they have to send money back to their home country. Right. And that like leads them to like not having any money for themselves. So, you know, there are different circumstances that everyone has. And so I'm not saying like follow these steps and, you know, you're going to be financially free, but definitely like assess your situation first, and see like, you know, what your income is, see what your debt is, and then see like, you know, where you can maybe increase your income. Definitely like use the resources around you. Don't be afraid to have a conversation with somebody and open up about your money problems, or just feelings and emotions too. There's a lot of emotions that come with like going through a cycle of poverty. It's like you're always stressed because there's not enough food, or, you know, there's not enough money for rent, or, you know, you don't have a job and nobody wants to hire you. So it's definitely like difficult to be in that position. And for me personally, like because I was able to graduate from college, like I didn't have to experience it alone. You know, when I was a kid, I definitely went through difficult situations, but it was like me seeing my parents struggle through it all. And that's where most of my experience comes from. So I also don't want to take away from people that are listening to this and, you know, are going through that experience themselves. So I just want to like put that out there, make that disclaimer. And then, you know, as I said, like the community that I'm trying to build is mainly like for support, so that people out there who are maybe going through these things don't feel alone. And they can come to the community and, you know, feel heard, feel seen. And like I said, my DMs are always open. So like even just having a conversation with somebody that understands, that's what like I'm trying to offer.
Well, since you mentioned that, drop where they can find you.
So I'm on Instagram. My handle is @overgenpoverty.
And I'll put it on the screen to make sure as well.
Thank you. And I have the website right now, overgenpoverty.com, but it's still in the works. So like whenever that's up, I'll definitely like update everybody on Instagram, and then I'm planning to put some resources there as well.
No, this is great, and I appreciate it. And there's so much barriers, you know, that are unseen. You know, we have systemic issues that our people going through, and even people with legal status are, you know, only making minimum wage, and it's hard to get by that. You know, I know people who are single and have multiple kids, and they have to worry about getting 2 jobs, and then who's going to take care of my kids. So it is a lot. It's definitely a lot to deal with. And we can't just say, okay, just do this, or just get, you know, $1,000 emergency fund, because it's not that easy. Like for people who are struggling, it could be just as little as putting $20 a check away, and it's a process. And emergencies happen very often where they may have to tap into it and have to restart trying to get their savings fund that's there. So it is a lot to deal with, and a lot of people who never been through it don't understand.
Yeah. And I think the difficult thing is like that it is a really sensitive conversation, and it is really hard to talk about. I think like I get emotional just thinking about everything, because, you know, as someone that experienced it, you know, in one way, and thankfully, like, you know, I'm in a really great position now where I have a good job, and, you know, I live I can afford to live in my own apartment. When I was a kid, it was a family of 5, and we were in one room in a 3-bedroom apartment, and we were sharing this apartment with like these strangers that we barely knew, sharing a tiny bathroom. And it was just crazy, because like the fact that like I went from that to now, you know, being able to live in a nice apartment, you know, I never would have thought in my head that, you know, this is where I would have ended up. And it's just like, looking back, I'm so grateful, but I know that like not everyone has the opportunities and the resources that I was able to have as a kid. Like I was able to finish school. Some people, they don't have like that access to education. Even in the US, like it's really, really difficult to like recognize that. I think like you think like, oh, the US is a land of opportunity, but like what about people that don't have legal status and they want to go to college and they just can't afford it and they don't qualify for DACA? What options do they have? So yeah, I think like just every person is different. Every individual is going through a different experience, and we shouldn't generalize, I think, and put them all into the same category, because, you know, we don't know their story. And so until that person tells their story and reaches out to people and kind of explains and assesses their situation, I think that's when, you know, you're able to maybe help them.
No, but I think I love that you're bringing focus to it, and just your page in general, because there's some things that that people don't understand. And there's even like bigger finance gurus who will sit there and say, well, just go get a second job or get a third job. You know, it's temporary. But not everyone has the opportunity to do that. Especially if, let's say that you did come from another country with your children and you're alone. So you don't have family, you don't have friends yet. So it's a lot to take in. So it's great that you're bringing light to this, and I appreciate you for that, to bring that out in the open.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having this conversation with me, because I feel like you said, a lot of people don't talk about it. And for me, even I was so embarrassed whenever I was a kid, and you would get the free lunch at school, because I went to public school, and you would get free lunch if you were under the poverty line. And I wouldn't eat lunch some days, because my friends and I would all go at the same time, and I didn't want them to find out that I had the free lunch. So it's so I think like I said, everyone goes through different experiences. And for me, going to school in New York City with people that were that had money, and that they would go on vacations every year. I felt so out of place, because I would be I wouldn't have those experiences. So I was embarrassed of where I lived, because like I said, we lived in a 3-bedroom apartment, but we lived in one room. And
you were in an expensive state.
Yeah, that too. Like I said, the free lunch, I didn't want people finding out that I qualified for free lunch. I just didn't want people to know that I was low income. And now looking back, I'm like, why did I feel that way? Why did I feel shame around being in that status, that class? There just needs to be more conversation around people that are in poverty and people that are going through poverty, and not put shame on those people, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault that they're in that situation.
And that's like an unpopular opinion that it's not their fault.
Yeah,
right?
That's true too. It's like, yeah, people think like it's a choice to be poor, and like that it's a mindset, like, oh, like you can build wealth, you can invest, you can like, make more money. You just have to change your mindset, or like you just have to like change your situation. And it's like, it's not that easy, like I said, everybody has different circumstances that don't allow them to change just, as easy as 1, 2, 3. So
I feel like when it comes to mindset is more for people who have the financial being, but they're just spending all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? So that mindset comes in for them. But when it comes to low income and poverty, that's a whole different topic.
And most people that are like living in poverty, I feel like they're very good with money because they have to make it last. Like they have to make $1 or like $5 last through the whole week or through the whole month. So they're like budgeting, because they have to budget.
Yeah.
They're like trying to figure out like, how am I gonna spread out these $100 for the rest of the month and like buy my children clothes, buy my children food, pay the electric bill. Like they're figuring all these things out because they have to. If they don't do that, then they're like on the street, or like, their children don't eat. So I think, like, if anything, that's just the wrong idea. That it's just a really big misconception that like that people that are poor are really bad with money, because in most cases it's not true.
No, I absolutely agree, 100%. Yes. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers?
Well, I just want to like say again that if you are listening to this and you are like, the person in your family that's trying to like break the cycle of poverty, and you've seen the struggles that your parents or maybe your family has had to go through because of the circumstances that they're in, just know that you're not alone and that you shouldn't feel shame, and that there is a community. There's a lot of us out there that are going through the same thing, and we always like support each other as much as we can. So if you ever feel like you're alone in this, or that you can't do it anymore, or you just feel like the pressure, just know that like you have a community that will welcome you with open arms. So, and I want to say thank you to you, Jay, for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. But thank you, because this is just information that needs to be out, and I appreciate you for doing it. So guys, you can find Viv at Overgen Poverty, and I will put it down below. I'll also put it in the description, and your future website, because that's going to happen, where she's going to be having free resources for all of you. So if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and follow both of us on Instagram, where we share financial literacy tips for you guys. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.